This is a essay or video of a written essay that is available on PLN's SCRBD page. The link to the written article is available in the YouTube video's description box. For a limited time, there will be weekly semi-serious essays about behavioral technology and what could happen, what has happened, and what is happening. Whether you read the essays or watch the essay, hope you get something out of RX's musings on behavioral technology. This week's essay is Brainwashing. Been there, done that.
While doing my neurointerference removal rejection devices NIRD research, I get to come across information that the general public doesn't know about. Long forgotten or completely unknown facts that are hidden away, waiting to be revealed. One of the most interesting closed research that I have come across is the work of Dr. Ewan Cameron. YouTube is known for its entertainment content and the stunts of some of its outlandish creators. However, there is a more serious side to YouTube where you could find some obscure and valuable information. People often knock YouTube's recommended videos, but I have often found some relevant and interesting videos that I probably wouldn't have come across while digging through the billions of videos available on the site. The Fifth Estate's episode about Dr. Cameron's research is one of those valuable recommendations. 3 videos documenting Canadian citizens' lawsuit against the American government got my attention. The backstory is that Dr. Cameron, a well-respected American psychiatrist, was researching a new treatment where he tried to cure patients' diseases or ailments by a series of processes called depatterning and implementing looped audio recording of new healthy ideas, psychic driving, into their freshly washed minds. Simply, he was brainwashing them. The media even called it beneficial brainwashing. In Brainwashing Avatars, The Curious Career of Dr. Ewan Cameron by Rebecca Lamov, she describes the mechanism of brainwashing in this way. The process of changing people's minds starts from the outside, but seems to move inside so successfully that the person affected will proceed to act out a role of suicide bomber, silent chattel, abductee, refugee, strutting revolutionary, newscaster, or newsmaker, as if the script had not only been memorized, but consumed, internalized, and fully incorporated into the deepest weave of the psyche. In cases where brainwashing is forced, the brainwashed person changes herself to save herself, and what first occurred under the gun no longer needs a gun to be enforced. Acting in a new way, according to new patterns, becomes natural. The U.S. government became obsessed with mind control and brainwashing during the Korean War when some prisoners of war came back to the U.S., denouncing the American way of life and repeating the enemy's propaganda. The CIA was convinced that the communists had found the key to brainwashing, and Americans had to unlock the mystery of mind control to protect against the communists. This explanation puts the motive for mind control or brainwashing research as a search for defense against America's enemies. The government also worried that the Soviets had developed methods to brainwash people. A CIA psychologist said that they were pressured to find any kind of means, chemical, psychological, etc., that could be used to influence the behavior of the people. This explanation makes sense of why the government poured money into mind control research and why the public was okay with it in the beginning. It was for practical reasons. The CIA was the most involved and funded several academic mind control research under the guise of a cover foundation. Lamov writes, more to the point, it was a secret program designed, in the words of its decade-and-a-half-long head, Sidney Gottlieb, to investigate whether and how it was possible to modify an individual's behavior by covert means. Or, in the still more direct language of an internal CIA memorandum, to pursue the goal of controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against such fundamental laws of nature as self-preservation. Cameron received CIA funding, but his research wasn't focused on mind control. He seemed to be more interested in finding a way to cure a patient. However, his patients didn't know that much about the treatment that they would receive under his care. He often drugged the patients and/or kept them asleep for days while shocking them. In the YouTube videos, the patients talk about their experience and how they can't remember parts or most of their lives. When talking about these types of incidents, the public usually concentrates on the horrors of the brainwashing or mind manipulation experiments. Articles talk about the atrocities committed against innocent victims and laud how it was all stopped. While all this is commendable, it is often forgotten that new information was found during these experiments. The experiments could be banned, but the information it gave is still in circulation. The news articles make the general public feel good because the brainwashing monster has gone away, supposedly failed, and won't scare anyone anymore. This article begs to differ. The information gleaned from different scholars and researchers being funded by the CIA Cover Foundation, the Human Ecology Fund, has become part of normal society. It is even in some self-help books. For example, Lemov writes that Charles Osgood pioneered the study of self-conversion, later labeled cognitive dissonance, in which a subject, in order to avoid the discomfort of incongruities and ambiguities, embraces a more extreme opinion about an object than he or she initially held. Self-brainwashing, in effect. Cognitive dissonance could be used by psychopaths and narcissists to gaslight, but it has also been used by those struggling to overcome their own shortcomings. This may sound confusing, so an example will be given to show how it can be used for self-help. I read somewhere that a shy person used cognitive dissonance to be more outgoing. The person kept telling himself that he was an outgoing person that everybody liked. The fact was that his mind knew that wasn't true, but since he kept saying and believing it, he was trying to force his mind to relieve its confusion by choosing one or the other. He pretty much gaslighted himself because if the mind went with the truth that he was shy, it would have felt his pressure to be more outgoing and the discomfort would have continued. To avoid the discomfort, the mind decided to go along with his lie and behave more outgoing. He rewarded his mind with his own happiness that he was more outgoing, and the discomfort disappeared. That is also a good example of how brainwashing funds led to information that is still being used today and could be used for good or bad reasons. To make it more up to date, Lemov wrote a CIA document dated November 26, 1951, states, "We're now convinced that we can maintain a subject in a controlled state for a much longer period of time than we heretofore had believed possible. By playing on weakness or vulnerability, people could be turned into controlled sources, that is, agents willing to do a superior's bidding." Agency rhetoric was often couched in of owning another person. The term owning someone is back in style, and variations of that phrase is used often by those who psych someone out to the point of being submissive. Is it a coincidence that the CIA used the same term during its mind control research? Probably not, because the methods by which someone today will try to own another person is probably based on information that came from the mind control experiments. Cameron may have failed to find a new psychiatric treatment, but he did succeed in finding methods to brainwash people. That's exactly what he did. He washed his patients' minds clean of most of their memories, and anyone could have stepped in and filled their minds with whatever new information they wanted. Luckily, most of his patients had loving family members around to remind them of who they were. If those family members weren't around, anyone could have stepped in and told these people whatever they wanted, thereby virtually making the patient into whoever they wanted the patient to be. The government was able to check off brainwashing because the task was completed. Introducing behavioral technology will explore the implications of mind and body manipulation technologies before they emerge or as they emerge. Believe it or not, mind manipulation experiments didn't go away and have been advancing quietly. It is important that the general public starts to openly discuss what has happened in the past, what is happening in the present, and the future implications of behavioral technology. Behavioral technology is sneaking back into public life and probably will be introduced as a disruptive technology once the public has become more accommodating to the topic. Let's start the conversation now, before delving headfirst into all the hoopla and gimmicks of what is to come.